Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope you've all had a wonderful day. Today's video is something that I'm going to be doing in 2019. So yeah, it's a video introducing you to that and giving you a little bit of information about what I'm going to be doing. So as you can see behind me, I have a rather large collection of books. And I actually sat and added up how many books I actually own today. And I own 268 books. And 50 of which I have actually read. So that's like not even half. It's way less than like a quarter maybe. So my plan for 2019 is to do a book challenge. And magazines and various other people bring them out every year. But a lot of them didn't really apply to books I read or just didn't particularly grab my interest. So I went online and I looked through magazines and things like that, and I compiled a list of my own questions that would help me choose the books I would be reading. So I'm going to be reading 19 books in 2019, and I have put it in my notebook. So there are a list of 19 questions. And through those questions, I've chosen 19 books. Now, if you would like to take part in this, then I definitely think you should. Leave me a comment down below and let me know that you're going to take part, because I love reading, but I just am so lazy with it. It takes me ages to read books. So I thought this book challenge would really help me. So I'm going to go through the questions, and then I'm going to show you the book I chose that goes with that question, tell you a little bit about the book, and then, yeah, wish me luck. So the first book or question is a book that is also a film. So I went through my books, and the one I chose is this one, and it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. And I have actually seen the film of this, which is why I went out and found the book. And it just says a magnificent new film starring Jack Nicholson. Now, ordinarily, I find him quite a strange actor to watch, but this film had me hooked. I absolutely loved it, and I thought, you know what, I want to see what the book is like. So it just says, Chief Bromden, half American Indian, whom the authorities believe is deaf and dumb, tells the story of a mental institution ruled by Big Nurse on behalf of the all-powerful Combine. Into this terrifying grey world comes McMurphy, a brawling gambling man who wages total war on behalf of his coward fellow inmates. What follows is at once hilarious and heroic, tragic and ultimately liberating. Since its first publication 14 years ago, Ken Kesey's astonishing first novel has achieved the status of a contemporary classic. So yeah, I'm excited to read this. These books I am not going to read in the order I have listed them. They are just a collection of books that I will pick and choose from this list. So that is the first one. I'm going to pop this up behind me. The second one is a book. The original question was a book with a question in the title. Now, when I actually went through and looked at my books, I don't actually own a book with a question in the title. So I changed it to a book with a comma in the title. And the one I've chosen is One Moment, One Morning by Sarah Rayner. And it just says, the 7:44 train from Brighton to London, carriages packed with commuters, one woman occupies her time observing the people around her. Opposite, a girl applies her makeup. Across the aisle, a husband strokes his wife's hand. Further along, a woman flicks through a glossy magazine. Then abruptly, everything changes. A man collapses, the train is stopped, an ambulance is called, and for 3 passengers that particular morning, life would never be the same again. So I just thought that sounded really interesting, and it has been on my shelf for a little while. So yeah, that's book number 2. Book number 3 is a book with love in the title. Now, the one I've chosen is Lovelies by Josie Lloyd and Emmeline Rees. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And it just says, Lost Souls Point is the tourist trail name for the highest part of the wild and windswept cliffs overlooking the south coast seaside resort of Shoresby. In 1871, following the death of his daughter here, Alexander Walpole locked himself inside his nearby family home of Appleforth House and burnt it to the ground. It's here that the hopes and fears of four very different people converge today. Ned is the architect restoring Appleforth House brick by brick, but who can't see his way to mending his own broken heart. Ellen is a filmmaker shooting a documentary about other people's suffering. She doesn't expect to find herself examining her own happiness. I can't speak tonight. Jimmy is growing up the hard way, learning to cope with unrequited love and with the memory of a tragic death. 17-year-old Verity is an incurable romantic, intent on falling head over heels in love for the first time, but unaware of how hard she might get tripped up in the process. Love Lives tells the story of how these four people met. It's about falling in love, growing up, overcoming tragedy, and above all, learning to love life and live it to the full. And I just thought that sounded like a really good, feel-good book. So yeah, that is book number 3. Book number 4 is a book featuring a detective. Now, I have actually seen a lot of the Frost TV episodes, and I did plan on getting the whole collection at one point, but I figured I need to stop buying and I need to actually read this book, see if I enjoy it, and then maybe in 2020 I will get on to maybe collecting the rest of the books, because I just can't justify buying anymore. So this just says, this is Frost at Christmas, a gripping novel by the creator of A Touch of Frost. And it just says, 10 days to Christmas and Tracy Uphill, aged 8, hasn't come home from Sunday school. Her mother, a pretty young prostitute, is desperate. Enter Detective Inspector Jack Frost, sloppy, scruffy and insubordinate. To help him investigate the case of the missing child, Frost has been assigned a new sidekick, the Chief Constable's nephew. Fresh to provincial Denton in an over-smart suit, Detective Constable Clive Bernard is an easy target for Frost's withering satire. Assisted and annoyed by Bernard, Frost, complete with a store of tasteless anecdotes to fit every occasion, proceeds with the investigation in typically unorthodox style. After he's consulted a local witch, Dead Man's Hollow yields up a skeleton. Frost finds himself drawn into an unsolved crime from the past and risks not only his career, but also his life. So yeah, I just thought that sounded really good, and I do love programs like this, like Midsummer Murders was my absolute favourite as a kid. So yeah, I thought this would be really good to read. Next up is a book that has been on your shelf forever, and this one really has. I don't actually remember when I bought this book, but I know it was a long time ago, and it has just been sitting there. I've been putting off reading it. It's just sat there. But this is The Other Hand by Chris Cleave, and it just says, we don't want to tell you what happens in this book. It is a truly special story and we don't want to spoil it. Nevertheless, you need to know enough to buy it, so we will just say this. This is the story of two women. Their lives collide one fateful day, and one of them has to make a terrible choice. 2 years later, they meet again. The story starts here. Once you've read it, you want to tell your friends about it. When you do, please don't. Please don't tell them what happens. The magic is in how it unfolds. Now, it does sound really cool and really gripping and really interesting, but it's just been sitting there. So yeah, book number 5. Now, book number 6 is a children's book. Now, I have loads of these because I have kept books that I grew up reading, or I've rebought them as I've got older to sort of relive my childhood slightly. But the book I've chosen is Roald Dahl's The BFG. Now, I have seen the film of this. I think I read it as a little girl, but I actually treated myself to the complete Roald Dahl book set. So this is the first one in there, so that's why I'm reading this one first. It just says, human beings is not really believing in giants, is they? Human beings is not thinking we exist. So if you haven't seen the BFG or you haven't read the BFG, you definitely should, because I watched this so many times as a kid and I absolutely love it. The BFG is one of my favourite characters. I don't know if you can see Lynx, he's sort of floating about up here somewhere. Okay, so that is page 1. Page 2 is a book bought because of the cover. Now this is the book I bought because of the cover, and it is called The Shock of the Fall by Nathan Filler. And this is how I imagine myself when I'm reading, is in a complete world of my own, out in, nature, enjoying it all, and just sitting reading. And it just says, I'll tell you what happened because it will be a good way to introduce my brother. His name's Simon. I think you're going to like him. I really do. But in a couple of pages he'll be dead, and he was never the same after that. Now this one I picked up because of the cover, and then I read the back and I was like, oh my god, I need to have that. And this has been sitting on my shelf for a little while as well. But this one cost a book of the year, 2013. So yeah, I thought I'm going to get around to reading this. If you can hear that annoying beep, it seems that our smoke alarm has just started to run out of battery. So I do apologise. The next book is a book with Christmas in the title. Now, I have quite a few of Katie Flynn's books, and the one I've picked is A Family Christmas. She tends to write books around Christmas time, and it just says, Jimmy and Mo Trewin have been living with the cruel Mrs. Huxtable since their mother died and their father left them. Life is miserable, but when Mrs. Huxtable's brutal son, Cyril, returns home, they are forced to run for their lives, leaving them homeless on the cold streets of Liverpool. Young teacher Glenys Trent has just lost her job. With no family to turn to, she's expecting a bleak Christmas until fate leads Jimmy and Mo to her door. Glen's lonely heart is touched by the two ragged children, and she agrees to help them find their mother's family in Wales. But the journey is fraught with danger as Cyril continues to pursue them. Will they ever find a place of safety? So yep, that's that one. This pile is getting more and more wonky. I don't know if you guys can see. The next one is a book about true crime. Now, I think I only have about 2 books on my bookshelf that are about true crime. But the one I've picked is this one. I have gone for some particularly thin books just to sort of give me a bit of help in getting through these 19 books over the year. And the one I've chosen is Brady and Hindley by Fred Harrison. Now, this story has always really interested me. I like to get inside the head of people like this and understand why they would do the things that they did, why they made the choices they did, and these two draw me in every time. Anytime there's a documentary, anytime there's like an article on them, they just draw me right in. Now they are both dead. You will rarely hear about them, so I thought when I saw this book I would buy it and see if I can sort of understand a little bit more about them. But this just says, Brady confesses to more murders and claims Myra Hindley was involved. On May 6th, 1966, at Chester Aces, Ian Brady was sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder of 2 children and a 16-year-old boy. Myra Hindley, convicted on 2 counts of murder, was also sent to prison for life. Brady and Hindley is the first reappraisal of the infamous Moors murders in 20 years. It draws heavily on a unique series of interviews with Brady, the first such interviews ever given to an author by a mass murderer in his cell. Brady's claim that Myra Hindley assisted in the killing of 16-year-old Pauline Reed, and that David Smith, the youth who led the police to the killers, was also involved, led the author into a thorough new investigation of the Moors murderers and their background. So yeah, I am actually really excited to read this one. It might actually be the one I choose first. But yeah. Let me know if anyone else finds stuff like that interesting, because I feel a bit weird. Right, the next one is a classic. And the one I've gone for is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is one of my mum's all-time favourite books. She said she read it as a child and cried lots. And I have never read it. It's been on my bookshelf forever. And I thought, I'm going to read a classic and I'm going to read this one. My favourite classic is actually Jane Eyre. It is by all means my favourite. Mr. Rochester just, draws me in every time. But yes, I thought I would read Little Women, and it says, wouldn't it be fun if all the castles in the air which we make could come true, and we could live in them? A heartwarming tale of love, sisterhood, and hardship during the American Civil War. Little Women tells the story of the lovable March family. Meg, Beth, Jo, and Amy try to support their mother at home while their father is away at war, and enter into various scrapes and adventures as they do so. Alcott beautifully interweaves bad times and good as her characters struggle with the trials and tribulations of growing up and their relationships with one another. So yeah, that's that one. The next one is a book with a colour in the title. Now, I didn't actually have many of these. I think this might actually be the only one. but this is, sorry, Joey's making a weird noise. But this is The Black Country by Alex Grecian. And it just says, Blackhampton, the Midlands, 1890. 3 people are missing. London's murder squad sends 2 detectives. They find a town of superstition, secrets and conspiracy. The icy and crumbling coal mining village to which Inspector Walter Day and Sergeant Hammersmith have been dispatched does not welcome outsiders. Tread carefully and they may catch a killer, but a wrong step will mean never seeing home again. So yeah, I thought that sounded really good. I picked this one up recently, so if you've been on my channel a little while, you will have heard about this one. Bear with me one second, I'm going to get Dre to sort that out. Okay guys, I'm back. It turns out it wasn't actually the smoke alarm. It was the carbon monoxide alarm that is running out of battery, so I've sorted that out. But yeah, so going back, the next one was a book with a name in the title. Again, there wasn't actually many of these on my bookshelf, but the one I've gone for is Pictures of Lily by Paige Toon. I have quite a few books by Paige Toon. I haven't read any of them, but I do have a lot of them. And this just says, will you marry me? I think of you then, I think of you every day, but usually in the quietest part of the morning or the darkest part of the night. Not when my boyfriend of 2 years has just proposed. I look up at Richard with his hopeful eyes. Lily, he prompts, it's been 10 years, but it feels like only yesterday that you left. How can I say yes to Richard with all my heart, when most of it has always belonged to you? I take a deep breath and will myself to speak. 10 years ago, when Lily was just 16, she fell in love with someone she really shouldn't have fallen in love with. Now, living in Sydney and engaged to another man, she can't forget the one that got away. Then her past comes back to haunt her, and she has to make a decision that will break her heart and the heart of at least one of the men who love her. So yeah, another one that sounds incredible, but I just haven't got round to. So that's that one. Next up is a brand new or second-hand book. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while and you've been with me for a while, you will know that I tend to do charity shop runs or charity book events. And I go to one every year with my dad, and they are all second-hand books. And I try, where possible, to buy second-hand books only, because I don't like paying the prices that bookshops put their books up for, and I think if someone has taken the time to donate those to charity, then I would prefer the money that I'm spending on a book to go to charity. So I didn't actually choose a second-hand book because most of these are second-hand. So the book I've chosen is a brand new book, and one I actually got for Christmas, because I wanted to read one of these. So I've gone for The Beast Within, and it just says, the tale is as old as time, but what transformed the prince into the beast? The story of Beauty and the Beast has been told many different times in many different ways. This is one version pulled from many, passed down through the ages. It's a story of vanity and arrogance, of love and hatred, and of course, beast lines and beauty. Yeah. This book is by Serena Valentino. So as you will have seen on my What I Got for Christmas video, if you watched it, I did get this set of books, so I'm super excited to read them, and I really wanted to add one of these into my book challenge. So that is that one. Whoop. Next up is a book someone was giving away. Again, I kind of feel like because all of these are second-hand, most of them could probably count as a book someone was giving away. However, I chose a book that my dad was actually going to give to charity, and I said, actually no, I'd like to read that before we donate it. And the one I have chosen is Alan Partridge's Nomad. Now, I grew up with my dad watching Alan Partridge, and Steve Coogan just makes me absolutely die. So I thought, when I saw Dad had sort of read me little bits and bobs of it, and I thought, actually, that sounds really good. I'll give it a go. So yeah, this is a book by Steve Coogan, written as Alan Partridge. and it just says, streets pounded, a country crisis crossed, blood spilt, tears shed, laughter peeled, a dead dad honoured, a hero risen, a book deal signed. Alan Partridge's Nomad is the beautifully punctuated follow-up to the author's 2012 memoir, I, Partridge, a book that has so far been loaned by over 60 libraries nationwide, including 9 in Her Majesty's prison state, and that's great. Using over 10% of all the words in the Oxford English Dictionary, Nomad charts one man's attempt to recreate a deeply personal journey made by his father some 40 years ago. Donning his boots, his wind cheater, and a high-end Arabian scarf bought in John Lewis only days before they announced a sale. He just cracks me up. Partridge sets off from his childhood home in Norwich to walk 160 miles in the footsteps of his father. His destination, Dungeness Nuclear Power Station on the Kent coast, a place that held a special significance for the man he simply called Papa. Through witty vignettes, heavy essays, and nod-inducing pieces of wisdom, Alan Partridge will shine a light on the nooks of the nation and the crannies of himself. He just makes me laugh. There's bits in here that just tickle me. I'm excited to read this one, and I think this is going to bring some real humour to 2019. The next book on my list is a sequel to a book that's already been read. Now, generally, if I read a book, I will immediately read the sequel or the next one in the series. But this one I didn't, so I was lucky to have one for that question. And it is After You by Jojo Moyes. Now, the prequel to this, if that's the right word, is Before You. There was a film that came out recently. It's just a beautiful film, a beautiful book. I cried like a baby. So I didn't actually know there was a sequel. And then my friend was like, oh my gosh, have you read the book yet? And I said, yes, I've read the book. It was really, really lovely, blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, have you not read the sequel? And I was like, hang on a minute, there's a sequel? So I went out and found this. I believe this is actually new, but I picked it up in a charity shop, so it does look perfect. But it just says, Lou Clark has lots of questions, like how she's ended up working in an airport bar, watching other people jet off to new places, or why the flat she's owned for a year still doesn't feel like home, whether her family can ever forgive her for what she did 18 months ago, and will she ever get over the love of her life? What Lou doesn't know for certain is that something has to change, and then one night it does. But does the stranger on her doorstep hold the answers Lou is searching for, or just more questions? Close the door and life continues. Simple, ordered, and safe. Open it and she risks everything. But Lou once made a promise to live, and if she's going to keep it, she has to invite them in. So it sounds really gripping. And I loved the first one. It has Emilia Clarke in it and Sam Claflin, and I just love those two. I love them. It's one of my favourite films, so I'm excited to read the sequel. The next one up is a book written by an actor or an actress. Now, I actually only have a few of these, but I thought I would choose a book that I hadn't read, because the other two that I own are actually by Miranda Hart, and I have read both of those. So the one I've chosen is one I picked up a while ago, and it is by one of my favourite actors, Mr. Simon Pegg. And this book is called Nerd Do Well, A Small Boy's Journey to Becoming a Big Kid. And I just love him in everything. Yeah, I mean, if you don't really recognise him, he was in Shaun of the Dead. What's that other one? Oh my god, it's completely gone out of my head. But it just says, zombies in North London, death cults in the West Country, the engineering deck of the Enterprise. Actor, comedian, writer and self-proclaimed super geek, Simon Pegg has been ploughing some bizarre furrows in recent times. Having blasted onto the small screen in the gut-busting and now legendary sitcom Spaced, I have started watching that. His enduring appeal and rise to nation's favourite son status has been mercurial, meteoric, megatronic, but mostly just plain great. From his childhood and subsequently adult obsession with science fiction, his enduring friendship with Nick Frost, I love Nick Frost, and his forays to stand-up comedy, which began with his regular Monday morning slot in front of his 12-year-old classmates, Simon has always had a severe and dangerous case of the funnies. So sit back, relax, and let Simon Pegg and his faithful robotic butler Canterbury take you on a spectacular journey of self-discovery. Or take this book to school and swap it for something cooler. Dotted with a case of memorable characters that have helped shape the life and career of a complex, dynamic and unstoppable man, Nerd Do Well is the joyous tale of a homegrown superstar and a local boy made good. So again, another book I thought would give me the funnies and give me a laugh through 2019. So that's that one. I only have a couple left now. The next book is a book with a one-word title. Again, I did not have many of these. But the one I've gone for is a book I gave away and rebought. And it is Wicked. Now, I would love to go and see the play up in London. I think that might be something I'd maybe do in 2019 for my birthday. But I thought I would read the book. Now, you're probably wondering why I gave it away and then rebought it. I gave it away because I thought it's probably a book I will never read, because I was decluttering my bookcase. And then I thought, actually, no, I really should have kept this. So I went out and I found it and I rebought it. And this is Wicked. So it's like a spin-off of the Wizard of Oz. And it just says, fall under the wicked spell. When Dorothy triumphed over the Wicked Witch of the West in the classic novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, we heard only one side of the story, but what of her arch-nemesis, the mysterious witch? Long before Dorothy drops in, a girl is born in Oz with emerald green skin. Elphaba, I think that's how it's pronounced. Let me know if I'm wrong. Who will grow up quickly to become the infamous witch, is smart and prickly and misunderstood. The infamous witch? She's a smart, prickly and a misunderstood creature who challenges all our preconceived ideas about the nature of good and evil. Taking readers past the yellow brick road and into a phantasmagoric world, Gregory Maguire's novel is a rich and triumphant feat of imagination and allegory. It is an acclaimed New York Times bestseller and the inspiration for a hit Broadway musical, and has sold over 2 million copies. I am excited to read this. I wish I'd read it months ago, to be honest. But yeah, I would love to go and see it in London. If anyone's seen it, let me know in the comments down below. I am actually going up to London to see the wonderful Les Mis or Les Miserables in January, and I'm so excited. So this might be another one to add to my list. Now, this is actually the last book I have, and I will explain that in a moment, because there are 2 questions left. Now, this is a book with more than 500 pages. Now, this was actually quite difficult to find on my shelf because there aren't many that reach that point. There are a few. This one just about reaches it. It has 509, so it just goes over that border mark. But this is Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant by Darren Shan. Now, I have seen the film. I did quite like the film. It confused me, but I know these are in a series, but this is the one I have. And it just says, Cirque du Freak, The Vampire's Assistant, Tunnels of Blood. Darren Shan is an ordinary boy until he and his best friend Stevie... Never mind. Until his best friend Steve visit the weird and bizarre Cirque du Freak, where they come face to face with the creature of the night. Then Darren has to confront his deepest fears and sacrifice everything as he enters a darker world to become the vampire's assistant. Okay, so this book features the first 3 adventures in the internationally successful series, The Saga of Darren Shan. So I believe there are more that go with this, but I thought I would give this one a read, see if it's something that interests me or, you know, sort of captures my interest, and then I will revisit potentially buying the rest of the series in time. Now, the reason I don't have a final book for this question is because I've been speaking with a lovely lady on YouTube and on Instagram, and we are potentially going to collaborate on this and send each other a book. So the question is a book chosen for you by someone else. So we have been speaking about it, and it might be something that happens, it might not be. If it isn't, then I do have a book on my bookshelf that Dre has chosen for me, but it would be lovely to collaborate with her and send each other a book. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, I am not going to read the books in order of the way they are listed, but I am going to try and do monthly update videos to let you know how I'm getting on with these books. Sorry guys, I have such an itchy nose at the minute. Has anyone else got a really itchy nose? Yeah, so I am going to try and give monthly updates, or even 3 monthly updates of how I'm getting along. There will probably be spoilers about the books in those videos, so you know, I will put a disclaimer in those videos though, so you know, I will tell you a little bit about what I thought of it, and then I will say, you know, spoilers from here on in. If you don't want to see any more, then switch off now. But yeah, so they are the 19 books I've chosen, or 18 books that I've chosen. I really hope you guys are excited for this. I'm so excited for this. And if any of you want to join me because you have so many books on your bookshelf, then please do. I would absolutely love to have other people on this journey with me. But that's everything for now. So I just want to say thank you for joining me today. You should definitely subscribe for more fun things to come if you haven't already. And also, you should press that notification bell. I believe it's this side, actually. You should definitely press that notification bell so you get notified every time I upload a video and you don't miss out on any of these book updates. I'm probably going to call them book dates. So keep your eyes peeled for more book dates in 2019. But yes, no more books. I'm not buying any books. I'm doing a no buy 2019, which I will talk a bit more about in a separate video. But yes, no more books. I'm reading these. So yeah, take care. I will see you guys very, very soon.